Well, very positively, it's a very important relationship to New Zealand. It's our most important economic and trade relationship. An upgrade for the services component of the FTA, which is being negotiated at the moment. We're making very, very good progress. So it remains a modern agreement. We're also seeing in other areas, New Zealanders are buying electric cars more than any other car, and the number one country they are buying electric cars from is in China. And so we've seen the relationship grow over many years. It is very strong. And I think what we do is we continue to show the world that when you bring tariff rates down, you make a commitment in trade and you honour that commitment, then actually economies can grow together.
Hello, Mr. Michael. Thank you for your time today. So, first of all, how do you describe the current state of China-New Zealand economic and trade relation amid growing global uncertainty?
Well, very positively, it's a very important relationship to New Zealand. It's our most important economic and trade relationship. It's underpinned by a very high quality trade agreement. Both China and New Zealand can be proud of all the things that have been achieved. We've gone from a few $1 billion worth of trade to this year, there'll be $43 billion worth of two-way trade, New Zealand dollars, and it is very broad. The most important part of that is how effort has been invested into it. Of course, there are a lot of goods sold in both directions. We have New Zealand companies now that have formed long-term relationships with Chinese businesses, and they grow together. Some of them have been cooperating for 20 years. But we're also seeing in other areas, from science and innovation to finding ways to solve climate change challenges. We've just China and New Zealand had an EV, electric vehicle dialogue for the first time. And interestingly, because of the fuel crisis and the war in the Middle East, New Zealanders are buying electric cars more than any other car. And the number one country they are buying electric cars from is in China. And so we've seen the relationship grow over many years. It is very strong.
So China has remained New Zealand's largest trade partner for many years. How important the stability is in China-New Zealand trade relations?
It's very important. That trade relationship is underpinned by our free trade agreement. It is very high level. It has rights and obligations and commitments on both sides. And the Chinese government and New Zealand government have made a commitment to honour that agreement. We're also looking to improve it. We have an upgrade for the services component of the FTA, which is being negotiated at the moment. We're making very, very good progress. So it remains a modern agreement. That trade agreement is the reason our trade has grown, but it is the reason that it is also reliable trade. And we know that Chinese businesses and New Zealand businesses value the free trade agreement, and they value the very strong relationship that exists between China and New Zealand and our governments.
Do you expect more New Zealand companies will enter Chinese market?
Yes, I mean, it's a very important market. There's a lot of interest and excitement from New Zealand. You know, the size and scale of China is challenging for some New Zealand companies, but that's why much of what we do is around quality, not necessarily volume. But if you take, I have just in Shanghai, when I arrived a few days ago, went to the Bakery 2026, and a number of New Zealand companies were there, and we signed agreements when we were there, and so the trade continues to grow. What Chinese manufacturers are finding is if they take products from New Zealand, it adds value and they become more profitable with higher quality food that they produce. And so it's a very good relationship. I think that in the coming years you will see that relationship grow in trade and many other areas. It's because it's something that's important to the New Zealand government.
Mm-hmm. In recent, you emphasize expanding high-value exports. What do you mean about high value?
Well, at the moment, a lot of what we sell is food. New Zealand produces the highest quality, safest food anywhere in the world, and we have very good access to the Chinese market. A couple of years ago, when I went to the CIIE Expo in Shanghai, I came across the idea to give a government certification to our food, our meat and our dairy that is grass-fed. And so now companies from New Zealand can get the grass-fed logo from the government. And what that says to the Chinese consumer is that the government guarantees that the food that has come from the animals were only outside in the pasture, only at grass, they are healthy, and it is very good for you. And so that's areas where we know that value can increase and continue to go up. In the other direction, though, what's very exciting, we agreed to change our visa settings. If you have a visa from China to visit Australia, you can now come to New Zealand without needing another visa. And if you want to transit through New Zealand on your way to South America, you can do that visa-free. And so we're seeing the number of visitors from China start to increase to New Zealand, which is a very, very positive thing, not only for tourism, but actually it means that at a people-to-people level, the relationships continue to grow and there's greater understanding between our two nations.
Actually, I cover the CIIE every year, so I saw many New Zealand companies. So what do you think about the CIIE?
Well, it's very exciting. I've been every year in a row and actually have brought our largest trade mission ever to the CIIE. It is an exciting opportunity. And you're right, more New Zealand companies come to it and they are exhibiting and they're finding it very worthwhile. Again, that's underpinned by that free trade agreement. There are companies and businesses from all over the world that go to CIIE, but New Zealanders do especially well in this market because of the rules we've agreed. And in return, Chinese companies, I know, although we're a country of only 5 million people, we buy $20 billion worth of goods and services from China. So our size as a small nation is different when it comes to the way that we trade. And so CIE is something that we will stay very involved in because it's a great way for New Zealand businesses to meet others and to do commercial partnerships. But I also have committed to every year I will come back with a big trade delegation so we can grow the relationship.
Mm-hmm. How about agriculture?
Yeah, it's very good. I mean, there's cooperation. One of our agricultural universities cooperates with a university in China up in Harbin, and they do a type of a joint degree qualification together. There are many things that China does well in agriculture. New Zealand produces the highest quality, safest food in the world. Our innovation in agriculture is probably the best in the world. So there's many more ways to cooperate. But ultimately in that relationship, it's the supply of the high quality, safe food to China. We know that Chinese consumers like it, particularly younger Chinese. Many of them want to come and visit New Zealand. It's such a very beautiful place. We're making it easier now as we fix the visas and get them more easily, and we've brought the cost down. And in turn, those goods, the high quality food comes in this direction. But agriculture is a very important part of the New Zealand economy, and we will always supply food to China.
I think the CIIE also reflects the integration of the global supply chains. Supply chain resilience is a very important topic now. So how can China and New Zealand enhance cooperation while managing supply chain security?
Well, supply security is very important. Of course, if you can't get the fuel or the medicines or the food that you require, then, your population suffer as your economy will. Again, I think our free trade agreement already is ahead of its time because it has, a lot of rules in it around those rights and obligations. It means that we work very hard to keep the supply chain open. For instance, there are ships that come down to New Zealand full of things we need, and they return again with the wood products or the dairy, the other things that the Chinese market wants. Here at APEC, there is a lot of conversation amongst ministers around, the importance of supply chains and keeping them open. And it's something that New Zealand will keep advocating for. As a small island, a small country, 2 islands, a long way from everywhere, ensuring that the goods and services that we need can come to us and we can export is extremely important. But we do that through high quality trade agreements and where partners honour the commitment that they take on.
So what takeaways do you have from this MRT?
Well, it's very good. It's been a constructive conversation. At a time when the world has a lot of uncertainty, from geopolitical challenges to some economies are not doing well, to supply chains and shipping routes that are under threat, to very high energy prices in the Middle East and the Ukraine, it is important that we come in a very calm fashion, discuss openly how we can remove barriers and make it easier for businesses and give them greater certainty. So, the work has been very worthwhile and we've made progress. It's also a real pleasure to come back to China. I visited China more than in the last 3 years, I think, any other minister in New Zealand. It has almost become a second home for me. As well as here in Suzhou, which is my second visit, I'm also going on to Chengdu, and then I'll go on to Hainan to go and talk to them. Some of them about the trade and other areas about tourism and flights and so on. So very pleased to be back.
Do you think APEC still play an important role in integrating regional economy?
Absolutely. It has always been important and will remain so for New Zealand. There is no other organisation with the same number and size of the world's economy that come together. It does not mean that we agree on everything, and it does not mean that we always agree easily, but it is very important that we're here and we have that dialogue. Regional integration can mean many things to different people. For us, it's a matter to continue to engage and talk, and both as part of APEC, but also bilaterally, look for ways to simplify the rules and make them easier to understand, bring the cost down for our businesses, which gives certainty. And after all, that entails that our consumers have greater choice, and perhaps we lower the cost at the same time.
We are in a more uncertain world. So what role can China-New Zealand trade relation play in APEC cooperation?
Well, I think we just have to keep underlining the importance of our free trade agreement and how much we have achieved together in a short period of time. It is a very important trade relationship, and I think what we do is we continue to show the world that when you bring tariff rates down, you make a commitment in trade and you honour that commitment, then actually economies can grow together. And I think that's one of the most important things we can continue to demonstrate. For the New Zealand government, when we take on obligations in a trade agreement, we do so knowingly and we honour them because we think it's important, and we see that in China as well. And so you are right that there are challenges around the world, but this trade agreement, as with some others, can be a bit of a beacon light as to what happens when you focus on bringing down barriers, bringing down costs, reducing tariff rates, and making it easier for trade. Jobs are created, consumers have choice, and when jobs are created, families, citizens are better off.
Finally, what do you see the future of China-New Zealand trade relation?
I'm very positive, but as a trade minister, I have to be, because that's my job, to be optimistic. But, we have hit $43 billion worth of two-way trade. I think through hard work and focus, we will hit $50 billion over the next 5 or 6 years. And that's because there is mutual respect. It is a very long relationship that is important to New Zealand and China. It is underpinned by the free trade agreement, and it is important to our businesses who are finding more ways to grow their businesses together. So I'm very excited about the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. We'll continue to play our part in APEC and other international organizations. But the important thing for us in this is honouring the rules that are in our free trade agreement and continue to improve it through trade, so we can say to the world, when a very large country and a small country agree something in trade, important things can happen.
All right, we wish China and New Zealand will have more cooperations in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you.